And welcome back to the Mike Pressler Show. We're here at Blackie's Bulldog Tavern, and tonight we're joined by senior midfielder Matt Larson. Matt, welcome to the show. Glad you could be here. Now, prior to Bryant, you were a four-year letterman at Cheshire High School in Connecticut, where you also played ice hockey. But what I'd like to know is, how old were you when you started playing lacrosse, and how did you really get into the sport?
By nature, we have a baseball town, and so I played baseball till about 3rd or 4th grade, and my dad couldn't watch me sit in the outfield and do nothing anymore. So, I mean, he kind of nudged me into lacrosse, and I mean, it was always between that and hockey, getting in shape for one or the other, and I've always liked a more fast-paced game, so I naturally stuck to lacrosse, and I like that a lot more, so that's kind of what I stayed with.
Well, it seems like you made a good choice. Now, when you were deciding where to play in college, what were the primary factors that steered you towards Bryant?
I always knew that I wanted to get into business, so I knew that Bryant has a very strong business school, and then I knew in the beginning, early on in the recruiting process, I knew that Coach P had joined on to Bryant, and I know me as well as the other 20 or 22 kids in my class, originally my freshman year, that was kind of our big steer, was Coach Pressler telling us the goals that he had in mind for the school and what we could do as far as being the first recruiting class. So I know that we all took a lot of pride in that.
Right. And now, since coming to Bryant, what have you learned from Coach P and his staff?
Discipline, practice. I mean, practice makes perfect. I mean, we put in, like he says, we put in more work than any other team behind the scenes. I know they do with film and everything. I mean, I came in, I didn't know a lot about the game, and so I would say the one thing is that they're tremendous teachers of the game, all of our coaches. So I mean, one thing I've learned is that you just keep working at it, and you always get better, and there's always things to improve on no matter how many years you've been playing.
Right. And now last year you actually had to sit out the entire season because of an injury. What was that like for you, sitting on the sideline and watching your teammates getting to play?
I mean, it was really hard for me. I mean, all my best friends were in that class that graduated last year, so it was real hard. I mean, not being able to travel, having to follow the games on the computer. I mean, we were struggling. We weren't doing a lot, and there wasn't a lot I could do for the team. So I mean, that was kind of motivation for me to come back and help out this team as much as I could to get to be successful.
And now, how did the recovery process go for you, and did you gain any new perspective from all that time spent watching from the sideline?
I mean, definitely watching, you understand more the things that the coaches are saying, and I mean, as a player, when you're out there and you're tired, you're like, yes, coach, you do that kind of thing. But when you actually sit back and you watch and you understand the things they're trying to teach you, and that they will make you better as a player and as a team. I mean, I think that's kind of the thing I took away from it the most.
Yeah. Now this year it seems like you've really developed into a two-way midfielder. So you're playing a lot on offense, you're playing a lot on defense. What do you prefer?
I mean, I've always been an offensive-minded person. That's always what I'd like to do. But I mean, as Coach says, when you play defense, I mean, the pressure's really on. I mean, you turn the ball over on offense, you just got to get back in the hole, and then you can make a stop and you get the ball back. I mean, if we make an error in the defensive midfielder with our close defense, I mean, they get a goal, and it's definitely, you got to be on your toes a lot more playing defense. So I'd say that's something I've enjoyed.
Right. Now, this season has already had its share of memorable games. I think one of the most memorable for, I think, a lot of the people watching the games, and probably for yourself too, had to be the Stony Brook game. Now, you guys had just tied it with about 30 seconds left. You win the next face-off. You seem to have the game winner on your stick. Everybody's celebrating, and then it turns out that Coach had taken a timeout. What was going through your mind during that whole situation?
I know earlier in the season when we had played Fairfield, I mean, it was a tie game, and we had a fast break, and I didn't shoot the ball. And I know I got harassed a lot. They were saying, you used to be an offensive midfielder, you got to be able to shoot the ball. And so going into that game, I knew that transition was going to be our best shot, especially with only 30 seconds left in the game. It was going to be our best shot to get a goal. So I knew that if I picked up the ground ball, I was probably going to go to the net. And I know, to Coach's credit, it looked like I had lost the ball there. But I mean, when I turned around and saw that the timeout was called, I was definitely a little heartbroken.
Yeah. Well, luckily the lacrosse gods were shining on you as you were able to get the game winner later on in that game. Something I've asked all your teammates that have been on the show so far is, take us through maybe what's your game day routine, and do you have any weird superstitions or rituals that you go through prior to a game?
I don't really have any superstitions or rituals, but I mean, because of, I mean, I've had my injury, and I mean, Patrick O'Sullivan, our trainer, has pretty much become my best friend and lifesaver on game day. So me and him have about an hour and a half to 2 hour program that we go through just so I can get ready for every game. So I know Coach always jokes that I got to put him in my will at some point because he's done that much for me to get back. So not as much a ritual as just to get ready to play every day.
Hey, whatever it takes,
yeah,
right?
Whatever it takes.
And now, when all is said and done, at the end of this season, What are you going to miss most about being part of Bryant lacrosse?
The team, the players. I mean, I've already gotten a glimpse of it where your best friends leave, and you see them every once in a while. Especially being on a team where you see these guys every day for 4 or 5 hours. You're with them after the game, before the game. You go through all the wins, the struggles that we've had. So I mean, definitely the camaraderie and the guys is what you're gonna miss the most.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Matt, we know you have a busy week, and we thank you for taking some time out to chat with us.
No problem. It's been fun.
That was Matt Larson, senior midfielder for the Bryant men's lacrosse team. When we return, we'll have a preview of this week's upcoming games. All here next on the Mike Pressler Show on Cox Sports Television.